there's frameworks that are evolving and being developed that are specific to AI and how organizations are using
The
it.
important part is how we use them, how we leverage that knowledge in artificial intelligence. Welcome to Inside the Mesh. Today, we're going to talk about one of the most critical topics in cybersecurity, GRC, and the impact that artificial intelligence has on it. For that, we're here with the Senior Manager of the GRC practice at Bell Cyber, Dale Pike. Welcome to the show, Dale.
Thanks, Diego. It's great to be here.
Dale, tell us a little bit about your journey in GRC at Bell Cyber.
Well, it started over 15 years ago. I started working at Bell as a cybersecurity consultant, mostly working in the public space, so for government. And then it kind of evolved a little bit, and I started focusing a lot on privacy. At the time, GDPR was becoming a very popular privacy framework being adopted by the European Union. And so I was doing a lot of research to understand the impact of Canadian businesses and that regulation. And then from there, I started managing a team of GRC professionals. So that team has since grown, and so it consists of individuals who do internal governance, risk, and compliance work for Bell and Bell Cyber, and then they also offer their services as consultants for Bell Cyber clients.
In a nutshell, Dale, what does your team do to help our clients succeed in this practice?
Well, I think the most important thing we do is help them understand their cybersecurity maturity, depending on the industries that they're in, right? So for some clients, they might be big in a retail space, and so payment card industry standards are very important to them, and so they have to be PCI compliant. Other organizations are trying to understand their cybersecurity maturity, and so maybe they need a baseline CIS assessment in order to understand where they are as a company. And then other organizations are maybe have promising goals where they want to grow their business, and so in doing so, their cybersecurity maturity and the frameworks that they adopt also needs to grow. So then they consider not just a controls assessment, but a governance framework that suits them and the industries that they serve. So whether it be for clients who work in finance, SOC 2 Type 2 is a very common industry framework that those industries like to follow, right? For others, it could be NIST CSF, which is another very popular framework for mature organizations to follow, which is really, it's less focused on not less focused, but on top of the controls side of things, it also focuses on your policy and governance framework, right? Like how you manage your cybersecurity and your risk.
Correct. So It's important to note as well that even though some of these organizations have a huge operation, some of them still lack of the main inventory lists and the main maturity assessments and scores to understand how to improve on this aspect, right?
Right.
Basically, if they don't have visibility on their most critical infrastructure and their assets, it's going to be really difficult for them to adapt to this evolution and to get to the next level of, achieving a proper maturity after going through all of these steps.
Yeah, no, exactly. It starts out with really, a baseline assessment of an organization. And so you can, my team, they're very adept, so they can quickly assess where an organization might sit and how they would go about tackling like a risk-based assessment for that client, right? And what are the things that they might need to address immediately, and then provide roadmaps to try and address other critical risks that we might discover.
What are the most common compliance frameworks that your team helps organizations align with?
I would say we're like somewhat framework agnostic, but the most popular frameworks that I see are the CIS control framework, the NIST CSF framework. SOC 2 Type 2 is, well, it's not a framework, it's an audit standard that a lot of heavily regulated industries like to see their partners have. And then also ISO 27001 compliance is a framework that we can help clients achieve. And PCI, like I mentioned, we're a QSA company, so we can help clients with any of their payment card industry compliance requirements.
Correct. And then the important part is to recognize that while each one of these frameworks has some very specific details of how the audits need to be done, they all align on the basics, on the baseline of cybersecurity.
Yes, absolutely. So we tend to look at it from a control framework perspective, and more focused on technical control. So if you're a small company that is like just getting your feet wet in terms of understanding cybersecurity for your organization, then a CIS assessment is probably the best place to start. But you can build on that as an organization, and as you grow and as your business objectives start to evolve, so that you can adopt more enterprise level information security management frameworks that go beyond just the technical controls that are focused on protecting client information, right? But still, it's all about starting at a place where you need to make sure you are addressing the confidentiality, the availability, and the security of client information, which starts with the baseline of technical controls. And then as you grow, building that enterprise level security maturity to introduce things like third-party risk management for large organizations that manage a lot of critical third-party vendors. You want to make sure that they are also following a cybersecurity standard.
Correct. So in this context, it doesn't really matter if you have a small operation or you have a huge operation with thousands or even millions of assets that you need to protect. As long as you are protecting personal identifiable information, you need to make sure that you align to one of these frameworks, so that you give your clients the peace of mind that you're putting the right security controls in place while protecting those assets and while providing a service in our case.
Absolutely.
Dale, can you walk us through some of the platforms or strategies that your team uses on a daily basis to assess the maturity of our clients?
Yeah. So, traditionally, compliance and audits were very manual, right? And so you have people managing a lot of different spreadsheets, having like audit evidence in a number of different places. And so at Bell Cyber, we've invested in compliance tools like TruOps that have really provided efficiencies, not only for Bell Cyber and our team and our ability to deliver those types of compliance audits and assessments, but also eases the burden for our clients. You can easily be faced with audit fatigue when you get into these types of compliance readiness assessments. And so being able to reduce that pain for clients is valuable. These tools can be framework agnostic, so then it can show you across multiple frameworks how you're scoring. So maybe as a small company, you've just done a CIS assessment and you see where your technical security maturity is, but then you could also see what it takes for you to get to be NIST level compliant, right? And where are the things that you might want to address. So the ability to assess yourself across multiple frameworks is a huge capability that these tools can provide, right? Which then provides, executive level insight into some of the business risks that you're going to be faced with. So it's in business terms that your executive leadership can understand, right? And not bog down in terms of like technical controls. So I find that is really valuable. And lastly, I would say your ability to continuously monitor your compliance is a very important feature of these new tools and their capabilities. You know, it's not an audit that you complete and then you put it on the shelf and you wait till next year, till the next audit comes around. It is an evolution. And so your compliance evolves with you. And I think that's the real power that these tools are providing to Bell Cyber and to our clients.
Correct. So the ability to leverage these tools to complete the assessments and to add artificial intelligence on top of them is what is helping us maybe come up with 10 times the amount of assessments per month than we used to do before, right? So it's important to recognize that the tools are simply tools. They're helping us to succeed, right? The important part is how we use them, how we leverage that knowledge in artificial intelligence, and how we give the clients the outcomes that they are expecting based on the usage of them.
Absolutely.
Obviously, AI is becoming a major focus in cybersecurity. From your point of view, how it's starting to reshape these GRC frameworks and expectations?
Well, you're seeing it in the industry where there's frameworks that are evolving and being developed that are specific to AI and how organizations are using it. So NIST has an AI risk management framework that they've recently published, and ISO 42001 is another AI framework available for companies to adopt. I would say as companies start their journey into the AI adoption, they need to consider their ethical usage of AI, right? That's really setting the foundation and culture within your organization for how you're going to use these tools, right? Developing an AI usage policy, while it seems arbitrary, I think is very important, because as an organization, it plants your feet on solid ground and says, here's how we as a company are going to treat AI within our organization and the data elements that we are going to let it access, right? Which includes, so then you don't have your employees who are going, let's say, rogue and putting all kinds of information into AI tools that have not been adopted by your organization.
Correct. So using it is not the issue, right? Using AI is fairly simple, right? The difficult part is using it responsibly. And that's where some of the organizations fail, right? They think that it's okay to put any PII on these AI chatbots and everything. But in reality, they need to make an effort to protect personal identifiable information, because it's critical for the operations, right?
Yes, Bell Cyber is a prime example. We've adopted AI in our autonomous SOC, right? And now, we didn't just do that, right? We took our time to understand how we are going to use it within our organization to enable our clients, right? Because there is value in that tool.
Kudos to Javed, who is our CTO and the Chief of Artificial Intelligence at Bell Cyber, for thinking about these strategies to not only use and adopt AI, but to do it responsibly.
Exactly, yeah.
With the introduction of Bill C-8 and the broader evolution of privacy legislation in Canada, how has the compliance landscape changed for organizations, particularly in terms of accountability and cyber risk?
So, Bill C-8 has actually been around for many years in many different forms with many different bill numbers behind it. So it originally started, I think, as a response to GDPR in the UK. And so it has been evolving for at least 6 years. But I feel anyway that the industry today, with the way things are going, especially with the advancement of AI, it's putting some pressure on government to get that bill released into law, because it is going to increase regulatory pressure for organizations around how they protect data and how they handle breach response, right? And so it's no longer going to be a checkbox for compliance, similar to what the tools we are adopting within Bell Cyber today to manage clients' compliance. It's the same for how regulators are going to apply the regulation. It's continuous compliance is now the vision. It's not checkbox, put the file away, and next year pull it out again. We are continuously trying to improve our cybersecurity maturity and evolve as an organization.
Definitely. So we want the government, for obvious reasons, to tighten a little bit the security practices across organizations, right? So I agree with what you said. No longer a checklist. We need to make sure that security controls are tested and are agreed upon, so that organizations that hold personal identifiable information are compliant and basically are securing these for the clients.
Yeah, and so critical industry verticals, that the government defines, we're talking banks, we're talking insurance companies, energy utility companies, transportation. All of these industries are going to be faced with greater scrutiny around how they protect their clients' data.
Dale, to wrap up with this episode, why Bell Cyber?
I would say mainly scale and experience. Like Bell and Bell Cyber have been around for a long time and have been in this space since its inception. And we have some of the most passionate and talented cybersecurity professionals in this organization who are a pleasure to work with and are passionate about what they do.
Thank you so much, Dale. Thank you everyone for watching, and see you next week with a new episode of Inside the Mesh.